Top of the morning to you, Nigeria, and welcome to What's Your Take. My name is Dayo Akintobi, and I will be taking you through all the big stories that made the headlines last week. Well, this has been a glorious week and a glorious month, a couple of months in Nigeria's history. The elections have come and gone. They are done and dusted. We can relax and breathe again at long last. As you know, the governorship elections held this last Saturday. Some winners have been declared and some losers are busy taking in their loss. As we speak this morning, some are experiencing the thrill of victory and others are suffering the agony of defeat. That's what politics is about. You win some, you lose some. In any political contest, there will be a winner and there will be a loser. However, there have been some firsts in this election that goes to show that our democratic process is deepening and it is progressing. For the first time, we've almost had a female governor. As of this time yesterday, it looked like the APC candidate for Adamawa, a female, was actually going to be our first elected female. However, the news coming out this morning seems to show that the PDP may have taken that state. Nonetheless, whether she gets there or she doesn't get there, she made an extremely good showing, which, for the fact that it is even a state in the north that is predominantly a patriarchal society, it is a very good development for our democracy that she had such a good showing. In addition, we also have a reverend for the first time in Benue State, which is a predominantly Muslim state. A Christian reverend has become the governor-elect in Benue State. That is progress. It goes to show that religion is not the primary criteria by which voters now make their voting decisions. And then back in the south, we have what we call the happy hour governor in Akwa Ibom State, which has been a joke all through this last week because the PDP candidate in the run-up to the election promised that if he were elected, he would make sure that every Friday drinks would be sold at cut-rate prices all through Akwa Ibom State. Yesterday, my newscaster, are we moving our studio to Akwa Ibom State from next month?
I think
are we recording this show from there so we can get cheap and free drinks? What do you think?
I'm actually considering that.
You're actually considering that. Well, we'll pack up this studio and move right along with you. How have you been and how was your weekend? Did you vote? How was your voting experience?
My weekend has been well. My voting experience as well was very smooth and very easy. It took less than 5 minutes, just as the last presidential elections. I wouldn't say it was the same for other areas because my friends that stay in VGC, they woke up as early as 8 a.m., went to the polling units, and they were told 3 hours after waiting to come back the next day, which was a Sunday, and they spent their whole days there before they were able to vote. So that's what I have to say about it.
Yes. We have reports of isolated and sporadic incidents of violence, of irregularities, of INEC shortcomings. So we can't say the election was perfect. We can't say it was seamless, but at least we've got it done. Winners are starting to be declared, and Nigeria will move on, and we will heal from all of the division, the hate speech, the divisiveness, the rancor. We'll pick ourselves up and move on. And hopefully all the new people who will take office May 29 will do their very best to improve the lot of the masses in Nigeria. Now, having said that, before we introduce our guests, there's another interesting story we should touch on briefly. And this is how the people in the city of Shagamu, Ogun State, have found themselves having to travel to Ikorodu and in some cases Ijebu-Ode to go and queue for cash because in their wisdom, they burnt down all the banks in Shagamu in protest of the Naira scarcity. So who is now paying the price for those burnt banks? They are traveling to Ikorodu. And guess what? When they go to Ikorodu on Friday, the Ikorodu people say, welcome. We're happy you're here, but go to the back. You will not collect money before us Ikorodu people go to the back of the queue. So please let us think about the fallout of the things we do before we do them. You burn the bank and it's to your own detriment. So now you don't have anywhere to collect cash in Shagamu. You're not having to go all the way to Ikorodu and then go and take your place in the back of the line behind the indigents who got there before you. All right, so that was just a lighter look at some of the things that happened. Let's get into the more substantive issues. Joining me to take a look at the big stories that made the headlines last week is Kolade Stephen Adeniyi, popularly known as Coach K. Coach K is an experiential learning coach. Wow, that sounds like a very big title. Experiential learning coach who is the MD of 361 Degrees Limited, where he functions as a performance improvement and life coach, as well as a business psychologist. Welcome to What's Your Take, Coach K. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Well, thank you for letting me be here. I think I like your warm start on the entire news about the Shagamu people burning their banks. I think it's just very interesting. I know we are yet to get into the art of the conversation, but I think it's a good place to start from, which is that it's easy for you to be a party to the bandwagon effect, or find yourself being lost in the concept of the ed mentality.
Yes.
And you just follow the ed. And at that level, emotions are rife. People are not really thinking.
Yes.
They're just going on with the energy that presents itself. And
yes. Even if it's a negative energy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. Which is, like I said, one of the things I like to start with, and I think viewers also should be mindful of, is the concept of what I call the E plus R formula equals O. And if we take that into cognizance, then our actions and our responses will be different, because it simply states that your emotion plus your response equals your outcome.
Wow, fantastic. We will bring you back here to come and teach us all about experiential learning. Meanwhile, over to you, Yetunde, to give us the very first big story of last week so we can talk about this.
Governorship elections. Incumbents keep grip on power in battleground states as INEC begin declaring results. Violence, thuggery, and voter intimidation mar polls in some states. Governors Makinde, Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Yahaya, Abdul Rasak, Zulum, Buni, others win second term. Over to you, Dayo.
All right. Okay, Coach K. Well, I don't know what your take is on the entire general elections, from the presidential 3 weeks ago to the governorship yesterday. But as I said in my opening monologue, bottom line is the elections are done and dusted. We have a new crop of leaders, although the results are still being announced from the governorship one. But we have a new crop of leaders. What would you like to see from the new people who will take power in May 29th compared to those who are going out now? What are your expectations of our new crop of leaders?
Without thinking, I think this one is a no-brainer. So I think the missing nexus between leadership and the people is accountability. I think that's one thing that was deeply missing for the outgoing executives, either at the state level as governors or vis-a-vis even the president. I think there was a lot of lack of accountability. And I think if we look at human nature in itself with regards to people, you'll find out that the lack of people being accountable for what you promise to do, what you deliver, and the fact that even when you do things out of what you promise, you see the need for you to tell people that these are the reasons for this action and this is how it will impact. Case in point, the Lagos gubernatorial race, which became interesting, between the incumbents and of course the out of the blue candidate who gave us another three-legged horse race in Lagos.
Yes, Labour Party
contestant. And then you would suddenly realize that it became an issue more because the same governor that could not, and I'm picking my words carefully, that could not show up for the debates, for the gubernatorial debate across the state, suddenly found out that in 2 weeks, he needed to be accountable all of a sudden. And then which also now brings to fore the conversation that if you've done your job so well, then you don't need to explain to people that your job was well done.
They will see, they will know. They should know. It should be automatic.
So which of course now brings to bear the fact that the people who are the minders, the media minders of the governor, apparently should step up their game, and then they should be held responsible. Because if the governor has done so much, how come that the narrative is not directly impacted on the people? of course, I grew up. Of course, you'll be very familiar that we grew up with the MAMSA, with the MAMSA logo, where we knew that it was mass mobilization. People were heavily sensitized. So, and I think also that is another thing. We're still talking about accountability that the current government or the incoming government must make an imperative. Otherwise, we find ourselves going back to the conversation of, oh, you're Igbo, I'm Yoruba, oh, you're Hausa, oh, no, you're Kanuri.
And those labels shouldn't count. Or
they shouldn't count. They shouldn't count because when you are born, like we said earlier when we were speaking at the lobby, you are born a human being first. You're born a person. And then the moment when we went to primary school, secondary school, you were not worried whether the person to your right was an Ahmed or the lady sitting in front of you was a Chioma. No, it wasn't what mattered. It was the fact that you guys were colleagues.
Absolutely.
And I always like to give this example. Growing up, so I grew up before my parents, my father began to hammer. We lived in a face you room and palo set of building. And I remember my mom would go to work and she would leave us with my neighbors who were Igbos.
Yes.
And I remember the story very well, where we would go to the house. Normally when they will have dinner, they would be served in one plate and everybody would eat out of it. And the mom would see me struggle because the meal was literally hot. They were used to swallowing very hot meal. And then she, without being told, she realized there was a struggle and nobody told Mama Noye to make me a portion of food, serve me separately, and call my siblings and go, no, don't let them eat. And she will serve us separately. Till date, the man, because of course Basil is not a man, we're still fantastic. The woman was a year older 2 weeks ago. I was there. And I was introduced as our son.
Absolutely.
I was our son. She didn't say, oh, my neighbor's son. I was our son.
Yes, you know, the thing is, I believe that over time, politicians have created this artificial division.
That is it.
Us as a people are naturally
united. To understand that it is a tool.
Yes.
Like they've learned to make hunger. Like they've learned to make hunger a thing.
Yes.
A tool.
Yes.
The same way they have come across the divisive line of tribalism and religion to cause a strain amongst the people.
Very good, thank you. Let's talk about the new Naira notes. Yetunde, what do you have for us on that?
New Naira. Pains persist despite fresh CBN orders. Queues, chaos in banking halls as scarcity worsens. Days after the Central Bank of Nigeria declared the old 1,000 Naira, 500 Naira and 200 Naira notes as legal tender, deposit money banks say they are beginning to run out of the old currencies. This development led to severe hardship and pains for several bank customers seeking to withdraw funds during the week. Relief may be on the way though. Bank sources stated that over the weekend, the reintroduced old Naira notes will be released by the Apex banks this week, in addition to the new notes in higher volumes to clear the queues in banks. All yours, Dayo.
Coach K. This new Naira redesign issue coming to the studio this morning. Debacle. Coming to the studio this morning, I saw queues outside banks. They don't have money to give, old or new. So we're all still suffering. How do you see this, as you've put it, Naira redesign debacle, not policy debacle?
I think it was a policy direction that was executed wrongly.
Okay.
That wasn't thought through.
Okay.
And everything along the line, I don't think there was both the people who thought through the policy, I don't think they gave it a thorough thought, and we can see that clearly, because if you can't give people the new Naira notes, then bring out the old ones.
CBN says it has destroyed
the old ones.
The old Naira they've been passing out in the last week are the ones that were left in the vaults, and there's a finite amount. It's almost run out.
Okay, so that means we are now going to go back to explaining to Nigerians that we're going to spend so much money to print Naira notes again, considering how much was spent to print.
Do you think we should be printing the old notes or the new ones? Assuming we have to go back and print now.
No, we need to print.
Yeah, what are we going to print?
We definitely need to print.
What are we going to print?
We're on live TV, so I wouldn't be the one to be indicted and say that I said they should print either the new Naira or Naira notes. So I would say that whoever is printing the Naira notes,
yes,
either the new or the old, I think they should be mindful with the cost. Okay. We are running already. We all know it's an open debate that whoever is coming in to take over from the new dispensation, they have their work cut out for them. There are the humongous debts that the country has accumulated that need to be paid. So I think there needs to be a mindful way. The processes need to be rejigged. I've consistently always said this I say this all the time. Every time, I'll say it, in human existence and human interaction, in work, people are employed first for their competencies and their know-how.
Yes.
But they are fired for their behavior.
Okay. So what does that tell us? That our behavior comes first, our behavior is paramount in our outcomes?
Yeah. You know, I've been talking about the line of people, behavior, and patterns. So,
yeah. So are you saying the CBN and the federal government misbehaved on the Naira redesign policy?
So Nigeria, you've heard that. God said. but with regards to the Naira note, I think that the responsibility for that, of course, needs to be added up. In the same climb, we know heads should roll. But at this point, we can't be crying foul over spilled milk. It's already done.
Yes.
What can the bank do? I think the CBN needs to expedite faster than normal. I think that the monitoring agencies within the CBN now need to be out, because of course there was the lie and the rumor that it was meant to curtail vote buying.
Yes.
The elections are over.
Yes. So let us should open now.
So let us hope that the
yes.
reprieve we expect for
yes.
Nigerians should come at least not later before than the end of the week.
Yes.
The queues at the bank are embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
It also now shows that we also have not built capacity for internet banking like we claim to have, because if we do, we should not be reacting
yes.
to the humongous need and demand.
Yes, the experience of the average Nigerian has been that most electronic transfers have been hanging, have been failing.
I've had my fair share, and I'm sure you've had your fair share too.
We all have. So it's not a good situation either with the physical cash or with the online electronic cash. Aspect either. So yes, indeed, the central bank and the federal government need to bring succor to Nigerians quickly now that the elections are over. All right, Yetunde, President Buhari signed something last week to do with constitutional amendments. What's that all about?
Constitutional amendments. States can now generate, transmit, and distribute their own electricity, and set up their own railways and prisons. President Buhari has signed a number of bills amending the Constitution to devolve some powers to the states. In addition to moving electricity, railways, and prisons from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, other bills signed into law include financial independence for state houses of assembly and state judiciary, as well as a 2-month time frame for the submission of the names of ministerial nominees to the National Assembly by the President-elect from the day of his inauguration.
Okay, interesting. Do I hear restructuring here? And if I do hear restructuring, why at the 99th hour? I mean, there's been this clamor for devolving power to the states. So now states can generate their own electricity, build their own railways, and in addition, state houses of assembly and the judiciary can be independent. States can build their own prisons. So now the center is pushing away more of its responsibilities onto the states, which is what Nigerians have been clamoring for. So this is restructuring starting to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's President Buhari saving the best for the last. I think it was
legacy.
At this point, first it was about making sure that the amended law for the elections were passed, and that it was effected. And whether or not people like to agree, the reality is that we as a people have come to a place where we've come to realize that it's important. We may not have the process perfect, but we are on the right step towards getting it done. Then also, I believe that, like you said, we've been clamoring for this state police, power generation, and I know state like Lagos had quite a number of independent power plants that has already been run. So I think, like you said, for the governors who are doing the second term, And for the governors who are coming in, they have their work cut out for them. And don't forget, I started earlier by saying the bulk of this work is about accountability.
Yes.
So let's see how accountable they will do.
It's one thing to get the power. It's another thing
to be accountable.
Yes.
And
not just be accountable to implement it.
That's what I'm saying. It still forms accountability, because when you're accountable, that means I can hold you responsible for what you said during your campaign.
Yes.
I can hold you to your manifesto and go, okay, this is what and what and what you said you would do.
Yes.
Okay, so I give you your first 100 days, that will now turn to a big deal. So what happens after the first 100 days? How do I measure? Because don't forget, it's easy to say the politics is tied strictly to the office holder. But the bulk of the work is the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, citizen engagement.
Very true.
So how then do we now begin to hold people accountable? Can we boldly get to a place? And I think now, I love what this election has done, which is now that it was good seeing governors, House of Rep members going cap in hand, begging the electorate for votes.
Yes.
So can we take that a notch higher and use the same energy that we challenged them with during the process of the electioneering
to hold them accountable during their tenure
and say, okay, you promised to do this.
Yes.
So you said this, so let's hold you accountable. And if you are not doing this, can we try and test our laws for a change? Who says we can't recall people?
No, we can't. Absolutely.
By the time we recall 1 or 2 persons, people will do the right thing for their constituents, for the electorate. People will come home and have more town hall meetings.
Yes.
People will engage more with the ground, and we will see the impact in the life of our people as we go.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. So, governors, over to you. Now, you have clamored for this power. It's been given to you. So, let's see how your prisons and your railways and your electricity generation.
People were making a joke about the prison part, though.
Even the railway part is not clear, because Lagos, for example, has been building the Blue Line and the Red Line all this time. So it's been building its own railway, but that's for another day. Yet today, what's this about census? How can we do census and election, 2 humongous undertakings in the same year? How's that possible? God. What is happening with the census yet today?
Federal government shifts population census to May. Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has informed Nigerians that the population census, earlier scheduled for March 29, has been rescheduled to May 18. The minister stated that the postponement became necessary on the account of the shift of the dates of the governorship and State House of Assembly elections by the Independent National Electoral Commission. He also revealed that the Federal Executive Council approved the sum of 2.8 billion naira for the National Population Commission to procure software to be deployed for the census. A total of 869 billion naira is earmarked for the exercise. Population census is a critical ingredient for planning and development. The last one held in Nigeria took place 17 years ago in 2006. Over to you, Dayo.
Coach K, do you believe we are 270 million people in Nigeria? That's a rough estimate based on the last census 17 years ago. Typically, censuses should be held every 10 years. That's the global best practice. But we haven't had one for 17 years. So what they've been doing is estimating. And of course, the population figures relate to things like budget, planning, development, and things like that. So the numbers being bandied about now are 217 million. Number one, do you believe that number is accurate? Number two, in light of the fact that we've just done a massive election exercise that required logistics, required deployment of ad hoc staff and all that, is it sensible to, within such a short time, roll out another set of initiatives to count the population at humongous cost? Can it be done effectively and accurately? We're running out of time, so let's kind of try and speed.
Wow, that is going to be a bit tricky to answer. Number one, I think the timing is wrong. Without thinking, I think the timing is off. But the need for the census is important. Reason being this. Okay. The best government in the world, every best organization is data driven.
Yes.
Nothing can be done that is not data driven.
Yes.
So we need to have the correct data, and all these estimations. Oftentimes we've seen the reflections of it in how budgets are made, budgets are spent, and continuously the government will keep saying, oh, this is not enough, even though we are projecting. Africa, of course, we know right now is the one that has the pyramid correct, unlike the pyramid that is inverted in Europe. And what do I mean? That means our pyramid are bottom heavy with people in their 30s and 20s, while In Europe, is the other way around. It is bottom heavy for people in their 60s. So that means we have a healthier workforce. Nigeria as a nation in Africa is pivotal because it needs to position itself correctly to truly be not just a big brother, but to be what it should be, the giant of a country. So of the continent. Thank you very much. We need that data to grow as a people. We need that data to deploy the right sort of resources. We need that data to project also for the next 10, 20 years.
Can they get it accurately, or will they be counting goats and sheep and heads of cattle?
I don't think that the time is correct. I don't think that we are sufficiently ready and prepared to do another census. And at the back of my mind, we've taken this much time. So what's the hurry?
Yes, you're right.
Anything that should be done correctly and done properly.
Thank you. Very well said. And that's the much we can take on What's Your Take today. We thank you for joining us on this edition. My name is Dayo Akintobi. You can follow, subscribe, and like on our social media handles as displayed on our screen. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Good day.